Time for a video, not a movie video, from 1961. This was called The Last Sunset. It's directed by Robert Aldridge, written by Howard Risby and Dalton Trumbo, based on the novel Sundown at Crazy Horse. Produced by Eugene Frank and Edward Lewis. And let's move on to a quick point about Dalton Trumbo. Dalton Trumbo was one of the alleged communists that was infiltrating Hollywood and part of the McCarthy witch hunt in the 50s. And so for many years, he was unable to get work. But thankfully, up to 1961, sanity had returned, and this is a pretty good script. And what we're going to do is quickly go on to the cast now. So to the cast then. In the lead role, Rock Hudson is Dana Stribling. He's a Texas lawman, and he's searching for an outlaw. And that outlaw is Kirk Douglas. He plays Brendan Bren O'Malley. Dorothy Malone is Belle Breckenridge. She's the wife of rancher John Breckenridge, who's played by Joseph Cotton. Now, Kirk Douglas's character, O'Malley, it previously had a romantic interest in Belle. So that's how this locks together. Carol Lindley plays Melissa Breckenridge. She's the daughter of Belle and John. And Neville Brand is Frank Hobbs. And then we've got some other sort of supporting cast. There will be, of course, as always, a slide. So let's get on to a little bit of the script. And O'Malley is wanted for the murder of the brother-in-law of Stribling. The movie's set in Mexico, and O'Malley's crossed the border to track Stribling, that is, has crossed the border to track down O'Malley. Now, it has to be said that John Breckenridge likes his booze, and he's frequently seen in bars getting paralytic. However, his wife, Dorothy Malone, and you might remember she became very famous in Hollywood in the 50s when she was, and later in TV on Peyton Place. And so this is a auspicious cast, to say the least. Rock Hudson, of course, famous for his part in Giant, which I've really reviewed some time back. Joseph Cotton, he was a movie star in the 40s. And so that sort of encapsulates these actors and actresses in this movie. Early on, we witness O'Malley arriving at the ranch and reuniting to an extent with Belle. They had been lovers in the past, as I mentioned. It's clear that O'Malley still has a shine for her. She's married and has a child now. The relationship takes place at least 20 years previously, we feel. O'Malley meets Missy, of course, the daughter, who's completely taken in by O'Malley and starts to have a crush on him. O'Malley manages to negotiate work with Belle and John returns after an alcoholic binge and seems amenable to the job offered to O'Malley, and that is to take cattle from Mexico into Texas and sell them. Stribling then arrives on the hunt for O'Malley, but their feud is delayed as he is not in Texas, he's in Mexico. And so O'Malley then is enabled to help the Breckenridge family get the cattle to Texas. Stribling agrees that the two of them should help move the cattle, and then after that completion, he will attempt to arrest O'Malley and let a court of law deal with him. An inevitable confrontation between the two later in the script. The movie, though, is far more than that, and the characters develop as the story progresses. Douglas has just done Spartacus the year before, so he was on a roll. And his role here is a rather mischievous womanizer, the type of character you really wouldn't trust further than you could throw him. But he has a certain appealing aspects to his character, which both Belle and her daughter Missy find attractive. Belle is unwilling to fall for O'Malley, however, and his seductive ways. The daughter, contrastingly, is wants a romantic interest in O'Malley to develop, even though there's a huge age difference. Both men are smitten for Belle, Stribling and O'Malley, but in Mexico, O'Malley can't be arrested. Contrasting Stribling with O'Malley, Hudson is very solid, very predictable, and wants to carry out his lawful duties. On the other hand, O'Malley is much more into getting the benefits of the work. O'Malley's talent with a gun is seen early on, and we have lots of very nice Mexican-style songs with Spanish guitars, which acts as a nice diversion in the movie. We also get the predictable scenario when some of the local indigenous population get involved in a spat with John, who is well sozzled, and he's gunned down. O'Malley shoots one of those indigenous dead, and Stribling is forced to negotiate a deal with the group by offering them cattle from the herd, 1/5, which is the same as he promised John. The same as John promised O'Malley when he took the job. The scene when these two first discussed terms is one of the highlights here. As the movie progresses, it becomes a bit of a trail type movie, and we see the two romances develop slowly. That being Stribling with Belle, and of course O'Malley with the daughter. It's one of those movies where you are drawn into the romance alongside the fact that you know that these two characters are basically going to draw horns towards the end. They finally transfer the cattle into Texas after crossing a river. There's a fantastic scene I felt in the movie. A calf is detached from the herd and unable to move. She can't smell her mother. She's too frightened to move. So Stribling gets Missy involved. They jointly help the calf smell the mother. Of course, it isn't the mother that they smell. Stribling covers the eyes of the calf and then asks Missy to blow into its nose, a behaviour that mothers do with their calves. Then the calf smells Missy and believes her to be the mother. It's a wonderful scene, and it illustrated the talent of Hudson, a very underrated actor. Douglas, of course, is head and shoulders above everybody in the movie. He commands the centre of the camera. His use of the script and his emotional connection, delivering his words, are wonderful. And, of course, the variety of recent roles, Spartacus, the gunfight at the Old Cray Corral, there when he was Doc Holliday, and A Baddie, and Last Train to Gun Hill with Anthony Quinn, a movie that I've also reviewed on this channel. The inevitable climax between the two as we lurch towards the finale, and it creates a lot of tension, and there's a surprise ending which I won't tell you about. The final scenes are very striking and remind me a little of the Sergio Leone trilogy with Clint Eastwood. So I'm very impressed with The Last Sunset. I thoroughly recommend it, and I suggest you give it a good look. So that's my review then of The Last Sunset from 1961.